we may as well get into our top 10 list. And this is a list of the show's rankings. So we all ranked individually our top 15, actually. And then we took the collective top 10. So at running back, to start off, we have Travis Etienne with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we'll see how good of a job Zach does producing this bit here. I have no idea. Ziggy will actually be able to see how Zach does. But Travis Etienne of the Jaguars is coming in at 10. I had him personally at 11. Ziggy, you're also there with me at 11. And I think that there's a lot of potential with Etienne going into this season. We know second year with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence is supposed to take a big leap. Maybe the reception game will improve for Travis as well. A little concern for me would be Tank Bigsby, who has been really impressive in training camp so far. It's potentially stealing some goal line carries from Etienne as the season goes on. But what you're looking at here is a guy, 220 carries last season. He went for 1,125 yards. I mean, he is still a receiving threat, even though he's a little uncomfortable catching the ball out of the backfield, which he has said. But you got someone who should be in a high-powered offense. I think you could be looking at a big year for Etienne. He comes in at 10.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Jaguars' offensive line last year was one of the worst run-blocking units in the entire league. And still, Etienne looks like an explosive playmaker, right? On 25% of the runs last year, Jaguars running backs got tackled in the backfield. But Etienne got a lot of success, right? Yards per carry, he was pretty high. Mm-hmm. He was good when he caught the ball, sort of like you saw in his college film, even though the Jaguars didn't do that a lot. I think that Bigsby is going to take some of the short yardage situation. He's going to take some touchdowns away, and that's unfortunate. But like other than Bigsby, they're not giving the ball to like JaMychal Hasty or to Ernest Johnson very much. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Etienne to be a huge playmaker. And that kind of explosive playmaking is what you want in a running back, right? You want a guy who can take it. Like those 70, 80-yard explosive runs, those are the things that'll win you your week in fantasy.
I still view him as the biggest playmaker in that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. They do have Ridley now and Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, really talented, but I still see him, Etienne, as the best of the bunch there. So we have Etienne at 10. We'll go to number 9 on our list, Josh Jacobs and the Raiders. Remember, last season, we're talking about the rushing champ in 2022, 1,653 yards and 12 touchdowns. Currently still in his holdout. We're basically positive that he's going to play this season. But this guy, really rebounded from... He was always a good running back, but last year was the first year where we saw Josh Jacobs really rise to the level of stardom. Of the top 100 players, I don't know if you saw the list. Like, Zach, did you see the top 100 players of 2023?
Yes.
Josh Jacobs came in at 12. This guy is respected from his peers. He had a great year. We'll see. I don't expect him to go for 1,650 again, but I think right around that 9 spot is good. Ziggy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, here's the thing to be excited about if you're a Josh Jacobs fan. He got, nearly 400 touches last year. It was somewhere above 380. And his role isn't going to change at all, right? Zamir White, he'll develop a little bit. You've got Amir Abdullah and Brandon Bolden, but there's no real competition for him. So even if he regresses a little bit in terms of touches, it's not like other teams where a rusher has a big year and they bring someone in behind to take some of the load off. And you don't need to worry whatsoever about Jacobs playing this year, right? He might hold out or sort of play that game a little bit, but he's going to show up and play. There's no other choice for him if he wants to get free of the Raiders. Has he signed his franchise tag yet?
I don't believe he has.
I'm pretty sure he's still holding out, but that's going to end sooner rather than later. There's really nothing to worry about here. He's going to play, get a lot of targets in the passing game, a lot of carries in the running game.
The one reason I'm slightly concerned with Josh Jacobs is being someone who had him for a couple of years now. In 2020, 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, nice season. I had him last year in 2021, 872 yards and 9 touchdowns. Again, this before the breakout campaign. So he's had very good years, but again, the stardom that we saw in 2022 has only been a one-time occurrence. So I'm still not ready to put him up there in that top 5, even as great as he was last year. We have Josh Jacobs at 9.
I'm putting it out there right now. If he doesn't hold out and he starts, top 5 running back this year.
Top 5 running back?
Top 5 running back.
Look, from the man who called Saquon's return last year.
The only reason why is they have Jimmy G now. doesn't really ever run the ball, or he doesn't run to set first per se, and he's a big check down guy, right? I mean,
yeah.
And they drafted Michael Mayer, the best inline blocker of any tight end in the draft. We saw what he could do in college.
Oh yeah, no, Mayer's fantastic. That'll bring us to number 8. Someone I'm really excited. I think this guy could be a league winner. Tony Pollard with the Cowboys, entering his age 26 season, his 17.1 ADP right now. Super explosive guy. If you go back and watch him last season, him and Zeke basically split carries, but Pollard still finished as the 7th overall running back in points last year. 21st overall in touches among running backs, but 12th in yardage and 6th in touchdowns. It was just whenever he has the ball in his hands, and we know as Vikings fans, he torched us last season. It wasn't Zeke who was the problem. Tony Pollard brought a new element to that Cowboys offense, and now he's the only guy there. Sure, you have Deuce Vaughn, who's going to come in and potentially he might win the backup job. But right now, it's all about Tony Pollard. And I think this could be a league winner, RB1 potential, Ziggy.
I mean, I think it's more than RB1 potential. If you're drafting him at 8, he's got to be your RB1.
I mean RB1
overall.
The
RB1.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
RB1.
it's certainly within the projections, right? I mean, every single year he gets more touches. He doesn't lose efficiency. He's the most explosive player on that Cowboys offense. I get CeeDee Lamb, of course, excellent player. You're going to be hearing about him later. But Tony Pollard's an incredible running back. Even if the efficiency regresses a little bit, right? Just the increase in opportunities in Dallas should be really good for him, right? They're bringing back Zach Martin. They have a great offensive line. And last year, he was the RB7.
Yeah.
Well, as he said, he was splitting work of Ezekiel Elliott. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to be high on this guy. On our ranking currently, we think he's going to do even worse than last year. And it's possible, right? The guys above him are all exciting, but this is really where I think the elite tier begins.
Hey, in our ranking, yes. But personally, I have him as the 6th overall running back. You have him sitting at number 9 right now. So that's why he came in at 8.
That's just because I own him in Dynasty. You know, I get a little bit nervous about those guys I own always. But I've been on the Tony Pollard train for 3 years now.
No, he should have a great year. Let's go up now to 7. That's Jonathan Taylor. Ziggy, you have him all the way up at 5. I have JT at 9. Look, for years now, I've always been the kind of guy, if someone falls to me who's having some problems, whether it's injuries or holding out, whatever it may be, contract issues, I love to grab those people and hope it turns out well. And year after year, I've been burned doing that. So I look at Jonathan Taylor, yes, as great a season as he had 2 years ago, the number one last year, the number 1 pick in most drafts. I just don't want to get involved in this. So I have him at 9. We have him collectively at 7 right here, but I probably will not be drafting Jonathan Taylor.
I think there's a lot to be excited about for him, actually. I mean, on the one hand, you worry a little bit that like Anthony Richardson could be taking away some of those rushing yards. You know, the Colts do have a lot of touchdown competition for guys that can get the ball there. But even though his season wasn't great last year, the Colts offensive line was bad and it should get better. He's going to get volume, right? There's no competition for him in Indianapolis. He's going to play there. Like, I can't see them trading him. So you've got a player who's consistently shown he produces at a high level, getting big time volume with a rebounding offensive line. I think he's going to be really good this year, right?
Yeah,
there was a reason that he was the consensus overall number 1 last year.
Yeah, and it was a strange year last year. His touches didn't really change, but his yardage and scoring went down a lot. And that's a little bit because of the offensive line at times. He got injured. But over the final 4 weeks, he was the RB6. So there were signs of improvement towards the end of the year. And yeah, if you nail a Jonathan Taylor pick, let's say you get a receiver early in your draft and come back and JT falls, if you're pairing up Cooper Kupp or Tyreek Hill with Jonathan Taylor and you get RB1 value from him, look out, you're in good shape. So we have Jonathan Taylor at 7. 6, someone a lot of people are really excited about. He's actually being taken as the 3rd running back in most drafts. Bijan Robinson, the rookie out of Texas who's with the Falcons. The Falcons, as we know, ran the ball 559 times last year, the most out of any team in the league. He's going to be the best skill player on that offense. The schedule for Atlanta isn't so bad. The one concern I have with Bijan, and I have him at 7 myself, I don't know how much Cordero Patterson and Tyler Algier are going to get. It shouldn't be enough to impact him from being a top 10 running back, But when people are talking about taking Bijan as a top 5 pick, I'm not confident enough because I've never seen it before. It's a risky pick, in my opinion, even though he should be a top 10 RB.
Oh, he's third on the depth chart. Okay. He really was third on the depth chart. I have no idea why the Falcons did that. Like, he's not going to start there. But look, I mean, here's the thing with Bijan Robinson that you have to think about. He's an elite talent with an elite offensive line. The question, I think, always is competition, right? He's got competition in two directions. On the one hand, you've got like Drake London and Kyle Pitts, who are certainly going to get more targets this year than last year. Even though the Falcons should be a rush-first offense, it's tough not to see them using those guys. Now, on the other hand, there are two other solid running backs on that team in Tyler Algier, who put up like over 1,000-yard season as a rookie.
Yeah,
and Cordell Patterson, who people have forgotten about, but he was the RB9 in 2021. He was the RB30 last year, but that was due to injury for the most part. Like, he's good.
Would you take Bijan as the could you see yourself falling in love on draft night with Bijan if he's there at 6 or something like that?
See, I feel like if you like Bijan, what you should actually do is not take him and take Jahmyr Gibbs on the turn.
Okay.
Because like you're getting something very similar, right? A highly talented running back, a lot of receiving potential, and an explosive offense. The Lions won't be running as much, but they also have much less competition at running back, right? Like David Montgomery doesn't scare me nearly as much as Tyler Algier. I feel like those players are a lot more similar than people are giving them credit for. Exactly. So, I mean, if you like Bijan, you like Bijan, but I'd hit the brakes a little bit.
Are you a Bijan guy, EP?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Really? Absolutely not?
No. Too many people there.
Okay.
Too many people.
Too crowded?
Too crowded. I feel like I don't think he's going to be a 3-down back like right off the bat. If I'm going to be honest.
He probably won't.
And so and at the goal line, I honestly think they'll give it to Cordell Algier there. Like, I think he has great receiving potential, but like no way. Too much at the goal line. They'll take I don't know how big Bijan really is compared to like Cordell and all that. I don't have their weights up, but I feel like Cordell every time we see him, he's just falling forward like 8 more yards. Yeah, no, it'll be tough for touchdowns. And then you also have big targets like Ziggy said in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So who knows where the touchdowns will go in Atlanta.
I will say, like Ekeler was the RB1 despite having Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. McCaffrey was the RB2 even in San Francisco. Jacobs was the RB3 despite Devontae Adams. So you can overcome some of that. Mm-hmm. It's the combination of receiving concerns and running back concerns that make me want to pump the brakes a little bit on the Bijan hype train.
And still, we have him as the 6th overall running back. So it's not like we're that down on this guy. Okay. Top 5 now. Yeah, top 5. We have Derrick Henry here as the 5th overall running back. Ended last year, RB4, 3rd most points per game for running backs. It's been the 3rd year now out of 4 where Derrick Henry has led the league in carries. We talk about it every single season. When will it finally wear him down? And every year, Henry proves people wrong, unless he gets hurt. But when he's not hurt, he's still putting up very productive seasons. And as I said, in points per game, 3rd most. He's in his age 29 season now. And last year, something to keep an eye on with Derrick Henry. I don't believe it'll be too big of an impact this year, but he set a career high in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. His best receiving season as a pro. The big question surrounding him, like we said, will he wear down? That offensive line is not good in Tennessee. Could that finally be a problem? I'm still pretty high on him. I think he's an unstoppable force.
Yeah, there are only 2 teams that gave more than 85% of their rushing attempts to one running back last year. The Raiders and the Titans.
He's amazing, Derrick Henry.
Yeah, you worry a little bit, I guess, about them bringing in a new offensive coordinator, right? They brought in Tim Kelly, but he was their passing game coordinator before. I doubt he's going to rock the boat on Derrick Henry. I mean, yeah, you're getting a guy who will, without question, get top of the league volume. I don't necessarily mean like number 1, but you don't have to worry about anyone else getting the carries. And he consistently performs. So until I see him getting old, the only concern is injury.
What I hate more than anything in the world is when I draft a running back high and I turn on Red Zone on Sunday and I see on the 5-yard line my RB's not in the game. And Derrick Henry's someone who every single time the Titans have the ball inside the 5-yard line, he's going to get a touch. whether he's lining up as quarterback, he's behind Tannehill, you're pretty comfortable that he's going to find his way into the end zone. And that's why I'd love to have him. I've never had him on my team. But, yeah, the man's just incredible at fantasy football. That'll take us to do you have a final thought?
What are you going to do? Give the ball to Treylon Burks? Like, no, there's one guy in Tennessee when you're inside.
He got carted off the field today, didn't he?
Burks?
Yeah, I think he got carted off the field today.
Yeah, sheesh. Well, they also have Hopkins there as well. Well, we can.
Yeah, but
we can. What? Can you see Ziggy? Did Burks get carted off the field?
Well, I can check.
We were knee deep.
I will say being carted off means he was carted off. Yeah, he was carted off today.
Yeah,
what are you carted
doing?
Off, as I say.
We're a sports podcast. I was up in the boonies today with no Wi-Fi. I figured out that he was carted off the field.
It's a light LCL sprain. He's only going to miss a couple weeks. He'll probably be back.
I had my head down in those graphics that we're not using. I was doing that.
The one thing I have to say, being carted off means something different in training camp than it does, or like preseason times than it does during a game.
Mm-hmm. Usually
when guys are carted off, it's because it's the fastest way to get them to the training room. It much less often means serious injury compared to the middle of the season. So again, he'll only miss a couple weeks, not a big deal, but you don't have to freak out when you see that most of the time.
Humphrey also got hurt today.
Oh, yeah, that was much more serious. But
yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. Number 4 on our list, Nick Chubb, the guy that you were high. I think you were high on him. I'll have to go back. I know you were high on Barkley. You might have even been low on Chubb. I can't remember.
I might have been low on Chubb.
But Nick Chubb last year, 302 carries, 1,525 yards, 239 receiving yards. I mean, yeah, he wasn't really viewed as a top 10 running back heading into last season, maybe borderline, and he just put up great numbers. He 28.5% of the Browns scrimmage yards last year. That's 4th highest in the NFL. And I'm expecting another big year from him, both on the ground and this year actually in the receiving game. He's been lining up in training camp as that third down back. He's competing for that job, if Nick Chubb is really competing for any job in Cleveland. But they're trying him out as the potential third down back as well, that role Kareem Hunt used to take before leaving. So I could see him putting up massive numbers as really the main running back this year with no one else stealing his touches.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Kareem Hunt's gone. People thought D'Ernest Johnson was going to step in and take that role. He's gone too. I mean, the more opportunities have opened up for a guy who already has been an incredibly efficient runner on huge volume. Like Nick Chubb is on a Hall of Fame path. Like that's just true.
That's the big take on Nick Chubb.
Well, no, but you look at his yards per attempt. You look at how efficiently he's run. You look at the numbers he's put up. He is an incredibly efficient and effective running back whenever you get him the ball. Look at his numbers. They are Hall of Fame numbers.
And he's only 27 years old. I think heading into this year, he might be the most underrated guy in fantasy football because he's fallen to the end of the second round in a lot of drafts. And if this was the same exact situation, but we moved to last year before this wide receiver craze, Nick Chubb would be a top 5 pick in fantasy football. That's why I can't understand why most people have him 8 to 12.
You can't tackle Nick Chubb. Think back on the 2 running backs we've seen in the past 10 years who have been the best at sort of not getting tackled. I think of Derrick Henry and Le'Veon Bell for very different reasons, right? But those guys were both incredibly good at avoiding tackles. Nick Chubb averages 1 missed tackle per game more than both of them.
Yeah, I just don't see why he's not being viewed as a top 10 pick across the board.
People are worried that Deshaun Watson is going to step in and make the Browns more passing center. On the one hand, that's true. On the other hand, it means teams aren't going to be able to stack the box against Nick Chubb every single play like they're used to because they're not afraid of Baker Mayfield or whoever else in the backfield. Nothing to worry about. Nick Chubb, I think, is a prime RB1 candidate. Easy pick if he falls to you late in the first round.
And then that'll take us up to 3. We both have Saquon Barkley as the third running back last year. And this is the guy that I am positive Zach was high on. People weren't sure because Saquon's been banged up for a lot of 2 of the past 3 years. Last year happened to be a healthy season. And when Saquon's healthy, he's one of the best running backs in football, hands down. He missed 21 games between 2019 and 2021. So last year, if you look at his numbers, he was 3rd overall in points per game in weeks 1 through 10. A little bit of a drop off the final weeks 11 through 18, 12th overall for running backs in points per game. But I still think now that he's under contract, second year with Daniel Jones, I mean, with Brian Dable, offense should be even better now with the additions at receiver. I like Saquon to have another big year if he's able to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And you have to remember the injuries that he suffered were things like I think back to that ACL, MCL tear. Like those are freak injuries. It's not like a hamstring strain that tends to stick with players for a long time. You worry a little bit about the receiving, right? When he was a rookie, he was incredible in the receiving game, and he's never looked quite the same way since. If he can return to that, he'll be the RB1.
I had him that rookie year. Wow, he was so good. And then,
but even if he doesn't, he's got an incredibly high floor rushing wise. As long as he doesn't get hurt, he's going to be a top 5 running back.
Yeah, agree. And then 2 and 1, we both have Ekeler and McCaffrey. I actually have Ekeler, then CMC. You have CMC, then Ekeler. The only reason that I have Ekeler there at that one spot, we were talking before the show, he's a little more durable than McCaffrey. We know how the injury concerns, the injury history behind Christian McCaffrey, even though he was healthy for all of last season. Ekeler hasn't missed too much time over the course of his career, really. And then second, there's a really interesting stat that when Elijah Mitchell plays, he takes away from McCaffrey. So without Mitchell last year, and I'm not going to count the first game against Kansas City that McCaffrey had because he was rushed in. Without Mitchell, 25.52 points per game in 6 games, 23.5 touches. When Mitchell was there, 13 points per game in 4 games on 15 touches. So it's undeniable that Elijah Mitchell cuts into the McCaffrey usage during games. But again, it's not enough for me to put him below 2. Still one of the best, if he's healthy and the lone back, the best player in fantasy football. But I'm going to go Ekeler, then CMC.
Yeah, for me, I think Christian McCaffrey is just the safest bet to be an elite fantasy back this year. I know there are those splits, and you worry a little bit that the 49ers, when they're way ahead, they're fine taking him out, right? Some teams like the Titans, whether they're ahead or not, or the Browns, whether they're ahead or not, their guys getting the ball. The 49ers were a little bit more careful of Christian McCaffrey, but they're bringing back basically the same offensive line. It's the same offensive coordinator, right? That's a big deal. Things are changing in I always want to say San Diego and Los Angeles. I feel for the people of San Diego, but things are changing a little bit. You wonder if the Chargers could change how their offense works a little bit. Both of these guys are elite. There's nothing really to worry about with either of them, barring injury or something incredibly unexpected. These guys should be elite this year.
Yeah, and what do they do? Why are these guys the 1-2? Because they're the best pass-catching running backs in the league. And Saquon, when at times can be very, very good as well. That's what separates those guys. And that's why so many people are so high on Bijan Robinson, is because if he can add, like Zach, you were talking about it, if he can add that receiving game to the Falcons and be, a over 1,000-yard rusher and, 700, 800, 900 yards receiving or something like that. That's asking for a lot, but, Bijan could enter that group. That's why people are so high on him.
Almost everyone plays in a PPR league these days. So it's good to have a running back who can catch the ball 10 times a game.
There. And then just to wrap up the running backs, there are a couple guys who I was thinking about in the mix. Joe Mixon actually was one of those. And the Ramondre Stevenson we like, Aaron Jones, Najee. These are all guys who are right around that top 10 list for us. I want to ask you, before we move to receiver, on Breece Hall. You have him at 13, Ziggy. I'm hesitant to take him just because of the Dalvin Cook situation now, coming back from injury. When he was healthy last year, though, he was the RB6 in points per game. So there's definitely reason to be excited about Breece. I just think there's too much going on to justify taking him too early.
Yeah, there's definitely injury risk. But the thing is you want to hear something crazy?
I love hearing things like
among
crazy.
All running backs last year, Breece Hall had the most air yards.
The first
not air yards per game. The most air yards total.
Wow.
Playing in 6.5 games as a rookie with one of the worst quarterbacks in the history of football.
Listen, if Breece Hall was the lone back in New York this year and he had recovered fully for the start of the season, he's probably going to be in that 7 or 8 spot for me. I think he was that good last year.
For me, the Jets' offense was so bad He averaged 100 yards from scrimmage on 14 touches a game. Again, with Zach Wilson as his quarterback.
Oh, we had our friend who's a Jets fan doing the show with us at that point. And when Brees got hurt, he said, season's over.
And the season was over. Did you see how quickly it changed?
So
yeah, there's no question.
Someone to keep an eye on, though. He's someone that once he's healthy, by the end of the season, he could be a huge impact player if you do nab him at some point in the draft. So keep your eyes on Brees. Him and Dalvin are not a bad combination to target, just to see if one of them eventually fully takes over.